Great. So next up, we have Bruno Aziza. He is the CMO of AtScale. He's going to be walking us through some things that happen with Hadoop and their service that they offer on top of Hadoop. Just forgive me a second here. We're bringing him on. Bruno, busy guy. Bruno, you're in demand.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, Bruno. Thank you for.
I've got a little prop. Hopefully you don't mind.
Excellent. We'll keep that right there so the cameras can see it. Excellent little product promotion. I know you're a busy guy. I know we've just roped you in last minute, so thank you for coming here and bringing the cup.
Thanks
Can you
for
tell
having
us
me.
a little bit about AtScale?
Sure.
What you guys do and what your role is in the company.
Sure. So I run marketing at AtScale, and AtScale is a software company. We are a semantic layer, if you will, that sits between applications like Tableau and Hadoop. And I think today, if you look at the opportunity all the Tableau users have is how they can get more insights at the data that's stored today inside their company's databases. And one of them is going to be Hadoop. And increasingly, we see adoption of Hadoop. It's very hard to connect with Hadoop directly with the standard BI tools that you see today.
Absolutely.
There's performance issues, there's security issues, and more importantly, there's no business interface for modeling the data in a way that BI tools can access it very easily. And so that's exactly what AtScale does. It's a semantic layer with middleware. We sit between your BI tools and Hadoop layer. We give you performance. We have something called adaptive cache, which is essentially an aggregate management system that gives you the ability to query billions of rows in seconds. This afternoon, we're talking with a customer who queried 50 billion rows in less than a second.
Oh my gosh.
We also implement security. As I explained, you can have views for sales, marketing, and finance. And we do all of this without ever moving the data, which is a great opportunity for enterprises that are either having a double bet where it's their data in Hadoop, or they're migrating into Hadoop and want to get the same level of experience for BI users, so they don't have to think about what is the data source that they're accessing. They just know that all of a sudden they can do analysis at infinite scale, and that's why we call it AtScale.
That is very cool. So can you, for the folks that don't, we've got a very diverse crowd at this conference. For the folks who aren't familiar with Hadoop, and especially its security layer and limitations there, can you walk us through that real quick?
Absolutely. So for the people that are not familiar with Hadoop, Hadoop, if you will, is a new type of data platform. I say it's new, it's actually 10 years old.
It is.
And it was started by companies like Yahoo and Google and Facebook are so using those types of applications because they wanted to collect behavioral data. When you go online and you click and you search, and you do all these things, you're now leaving a trail of information behind you that can allow us to tell us more about it. Unfortunately, standard databases like the Oracle or the SQL Server or the Teradata cannot scale at storing all this information.
Sure.
And more importantly, it's become really expensive to store the information and structure it. It takes out a lot of the agility for an IT organization to have to move the data from different systems and dump it into a database.
Absolutely.
So it's expensive, it's slow, and so Hadoop was created as a way to dump the data the way it comes in, so it's very, if you will, very flexible in how it receives the data. It scales very predictably, so it runs on commodity hardware, and it's optimized, if you will, for parallel processing. Cool. So it allows you to query a large amount of data. It allows you to store just about any data that you like, and with a solution like AtScale, it also allows you now to enable business users, like the passionate Tableau users, to do all the types of analysis that they couldn't do before, in every industry, really.
Very, very cool. And what are some cool, so Hadoop is a very open source project, right? And there's all these other things like a Hive interface that lets you talk SQL to it, and Pig and Uzi and all these crazy names. How did none of those products fit the need that AtScale provides? Okay, so if you think about the ecosystem with Hadoop, the first thing to think about is Hadoop as a data platform and, as, if you will, as a way to query and run queries in parallel. Yep. There is a technology on top of it, which Hive, you mentioned one of them. There is what we call SQL and Hadoop engines like Presto and Impala and so forth. And what these do is they allow for SQL to be sent to the Hadoop layer, if you will. Right. But the problem with that is that when you're just sending straight SQL to this new data platform, it's very slow because it has to run those scans across all those tables. And even though it's an infinite amount of data, it can take a long time. So the reason why we came up with the idea of AtScale is really because business users have an expectation of how much data and how quickly that data is going to come back to them. There's kind of this rule of 3 to 4 seconds. If you ask, if you launch a query, and the answer doesn't come back in 3 seconds, it's game over.
Something's
BI
broke.
users just don't want to use it. And it's not that Hadoop is broken, it's just that it's not optimized for those type of things.
The user.
And so, when we started the company, my CEO, Dave Mariani, was at Yahoo when they were incubating Hadoop. And he was trying to connect 8,000 users of Tableau and MicroStrategy in front of Hadoop, and it just didn't work.
Right.
So he did that at Yahoo. He built, I met him because I was running marketing for SQL Server at the time, and he was using SQL Server analysis services, and he kind of reached the limits of that. He's the person that built the largest OLAP cube on Earth. And so he left Yahoo, he went to do the same thing at Cloud, and at some point with this conversation where we said, isn't there a way to buy this from someone? And David realized that there wasn't, and that's why he started the company. So differently from any other startup or company our size, we didn't come up with this idea in the shower. This idea came up from Dave Mariani, who experienced this issue at Yahoo, at Cloud, and now we're seeing large enterprises, financial services, healthcare, that are coming up to those issues and are completely unprepared. Sure. We just run a survey in partnership with Tableau and Cloudera and Mapr and the Hornworks, and we surveyed 2,200 people on the maturity with Hadoop. It's essentially the largest Hadoop maturity survey in existence today. And you can see the evolution in the space and how they're engaging with Hadoop. It is, without a doubt, going to be the next platform, and if you're not prepared for it, we're here to help you.
Very cool. And what was the name of that survey if folks wanted to look it up?
It's called the Hadoop Maturity Survey. The way to get to it, it's atscale.com/survey. And you can take the test. Actually, it's 20 questions. You can take them yourself, and then you'll get a free copy of the entire survey that we did over the last few months.
Very cool. Yeah. And something about Hadoop, I think I actually teach Hadoop. I do technical training for Hadoop, so I'm going to get a little geeky on this.
Okay, great. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So Hadoop, a lot of folks think it's MapReduce, right?
Yes.
And MapReduce is slow. It's been around, like you said, for over 10 years.
Yeah.
What are some of the newer developments like Spark? And does that in any way overlap with what you guys are doing, or can you run on top of it,
Absolutely,
Spark?
with complements. So Spark complements what we're doing. So the way you think about it, you've got Hadoop as the platform, you've got MapReduce as the processing language for mapping and reducing. That's where the name MapReduce came from. And then you've got optimization in-memory systems like Spark that would be used typically to accelerate queries. And in fact, if you look at the Spark survey that came out the same month our survey came out, you'd see that the majority use of Spark is for business intelligence. Now, the issue with a language like Spark is that you still don't have security you can implement. You still don't have a business modeling environment. When I was at Business Objects, we had this thing called the Business Objects Universe, which would allow a business user like you and me to map tables and basically represent to any of the BI layer what the database actually meant. And so when you have languages like Spark, it can absolutely accelerate. I think it's about, 100 times faster than MapReduce? But you still need security. You still need a business layer that allows for business people to express how they want to interact with Hadoop. Because if you don't have that, you can launch people into Hadoop, they'll have access to all the data, and they actually don't even know what they have access to. They can take down the database. We're now getting into the typical data management issues we've had for years, which is you need security, governance, performance management, these things. And as people are investing more and more in Hadoop, it's becoming critical that they equip themselves properly.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of folks don't realize with Hadoop that out of the box it has basically no security.
That's right.
Right? Anybody can get access to all the data, and adding Kerberos authentication over the top of it is a big pain. Have you went into customers that tried the quote-unquote Hadoop way that they suggest with Kerberos and just found it, Kerberos is a tough product to manage. Have you guys
we have integration with Kerberos and any security. We work with large banks and large healthcare companies, so security is top of mind for them. But I think what you're pointing to is exactly right, which is over the first 10 years of Hadoop, and we see this in the survey, the focus really has been about ETLing, so extracting transformation and loading the data into this new data layer. And primarily people have done this because it's more effective from a cost standpoint. It's also very predictable in the way it can scale because you just add nodes. And it's also a lot more flexible in the type of data you can put in. Now what we're seeing in the second decade of Hadoop, it really is going to be about self-service. In our survey, we asked people that have been doing Hadoop and people that are planning on getting onto Hadoop. And you can see that the workloads ETL and data science workloads are actually drilling down, and business intelligence is the one that's picking up. And I think it's an indication of companies now are realizing that if they can't connect the business user to the data platform is useless. So it doesn't matter if it's Teradata and Oracle. I think we've learned that from Tableau's amazing success, is that once you launch it to people and they start now have access to this data, they can express and use their creativity to find insights and change the performance of the business. And Hadoop is no different. I guess the only difference here is that you have infinite amount of data. And for real-time scenarios, it's a lot more useful than having to run those very slow, very if you will, very strict ETL processes that the old data warehouse world is kind of forcing us to do. I think Hadoop is creating this opportunity where the minute a file is closed, the minute someone is done clicking through your site and the data is available in Hadoop, you have solutions like AtScale that allow you to analyze that. And the speed at which you can get to that information is going to define how you succeed in your market.
Absolutely, very cool. And I apologize, I browsed your LinkedIn profile to prep for this because they just gave me your info, and I read through, there was a great line you had in there that said, you help startups crush it, right? So how can you give us some little tidbits of how you enable that?
Well, thanks for saying that.
Totally.
So, I've worked for companies of all sizes. I worked at Microsoft doing marketing, I worked at Business Objects, and my first company, I'm French, so my first company here was a startup. And if there's anything I can give to people that are trying to do startups in this market, I think the first thing I would say is that be very, very clear about what you are and what you are not, and be okay about what you're not. I think there's a lot of companies out here that I can see are really confusing the prospect, and they're using kind of the latest buzzwords and so forth. And it might feel good, it might be a quick kind of reward if you're in marketing for that company. But ultimately, that customer is not going to buy because that's not the problem that you're solving, and it's going to distract you. The second thing that I've learned is it really starts with the personas. So for us, at AtScale, we focus on two types of personas. Every director of business intelligence can become a Hadoop hero today, and they don't have to learn Hadoop. And we focus on making sure they understand that. You don't have to learn MapReduce or Spark or Presto or any of those things because you need to leverage software like us so you don't have to think about it. Kind of the same spirit that they're using Tableau today. How many of them actually can write SQL or would want to run SQL? It's really kind of irrelevant to what they're trying to do. The second persona is the IT folks. And so if you think of your data lead today, or you're a Hadoop lead, or you're in an enterprise data management leader, Hadoop is taking off. In our survey, only 3% of companies are going to do less with Hadoop in the next 12 months.
Right.
And the majority of companies that are not doing Hadoop today will do it in the next 12 months. So if you're not looking at that problem, in 12 months from now, you're going to be hurting. And that's not the great way to make decisions. And so for us, we don't focus on anybody else. We focus on the director of business intelligence and the people that are in the data management business who are seeing this transition happen, who want the experience of the business users to never change regardless what data they're giving them access to. That's the really hard thing when you are a startup to do, because it means that you want to cater to those people, give them the material that they want, and be patient so they can work with you, and ultimately you can become a thought leader and they can come to you for advice. Very hard to do when you're a startup because you got other pressures and so forth, and sometimes you satisfy yourself by doing a lot of activities, but you really can't afford to do that. I'll give you another example, a very tactical one. At AtScale, this year we did 3 events. We did the Tableau conference because it talks to the director of business intelligence. We did Strata New York because it talks to the Hadoop folks. And then we launched our company at the beginning of the year. We did the public launch. The company's been in existence for 3 years at the Hadoop Summit. And the reason for that is because we launched the company, we announced the company in April. We announced our Series A in June with the participation of Jerry Yang, the co-founder of Yahoo, and Amr, the co-founder of Cloudera, and that's because we wanted to talk to that ecosystem. So, if you're running a startup today in the big data space, ask why you're doing certain things and constantly challenge your team to make sure you're focusing on the right stuff.
Absolutely. Sounds great. A couple of the questions. Back to Hadoop and its longevity, right?
Yes.
How many technologies can you look at that you say have been in existence for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
There's very, very few. I mean, except for, Windows and Oracle maybe, and even they have changed dramatically. What do you attribute to Hadoop's longevity and its success and the fact that it is still growing and it is still expanding? And some folks, I even hear these
quotes people are saying like, oh, is Spark the end of Hadoop? And they don't realize Spark runs on top of Hadoop,
right? That's right, it requires Hadoop.
So how has Hadoop managed to stay alive this long?
How does it manage? I think it's pointing to a need that's just, you can't avoid it. I mean, I'm not going to rehash the information on how much data is growing, but I think if you think about a large bank that is going through the digital transformation of their business. Right. Take an example like fraud, for instance, and you're giving credit card information and you want to be able to approve those credit cards as fast as you can. I think in general, a bank that is not able to return an approval to someone that's applied for a credit card within an hour, I think they lose 60% of the people that they could provide that credit card to.
Right.
And so if you're not equipped to doing that, you are going to struggle, and other companies that might not be in your industry might actually take over because they started with the data in mind. And so I think the reason why Hadoop has been so successful and why it will continue being so successful is because in the past we had this idea that in the data world, you knew the questions you were going to ask, and you were going to sample the data, and you were just study the small data that you thought you would analyze. I think if you look at new generation software like the Tableau users and so forth, every question is driving another 6. And that means you need the ability to look at aggregate data, but you also need the ability to get down to the details and then figure out what is really going on at the transaction level. You can only do that with technologies like Hadoop. Give you another example, retailers. There's large retailers that have multi-brand analysis. Mm-hmm. Today, if you're using traditional stack, it's going to become cost prohibitive. It's going to kill your agility to put it all in one server because you can't scale up. You have to be able to scale out. So we have brands that have 15 other brands and they want to do multi-brand analysis. This store for this brand and that store from that other brand.
Silos.
You have to be able to accommodate a system that can scale infinitely, that can gather any data, click stream on the site, that visitor on that site, but with that credit card on that location. If you're not able to correlate these things, you're really going to struggle in providing the services that really can have an impact on the bottom line.
Very cool. So we've talked about Hadoop, obviously Tableau, obviously AtScale. A lot of cool technologies, a lot of cool products out there. What are some other ones you run across that you would let folks know about that they should check out?
At the conference?
Yeah, just at the conference or in your own travels. I know that you work, like I said, a lot with startups, and it's always guys like you that get to see the coolest things first deployed out there. Yeah,
there's a lot of companies I think that are innovating in the space. I think Tableau is probably the one that I'm the most passionate about. I know it's kind of lame to say that because we're at the Tableau conference, but I think the reason why I'm saying that is because they are doing something that I think every company can learn from. They're not trying to be a database. They're very smart about focusing on being the best visualization vendor they can be. And it's, I think it's a great lesson for all of us. I mean, in our case, we're just a semantic layer. We're not going to provide you visualization. We're not trying to be a database. And I think that's the coolest thing for me to see, because that's the biggest risk for startups, is to be so diluted and losing your focus so much that you end up being everything to everyone, and we know what that leads to is nothing for nobody. And so I think, Tableau, or any company that kind of does that is pretty cool. I will tell you the one thing I'm not a fan of, and I'll make a little bit of a joke about that, is the companies that are coming out and saying they're going to be Tableau 2.0. They're going to be the next visualization wave. And to be honest, Tableau has Tableau 9.1, right? So if you're going to be Tableau 2.0, you're 7 versions behind. So you have to be very careful about what that means when you're a startup and you say you're going to be the next Tableau. There's 10 years of innovations here. There's hundreds of developers. And that's why we made the choice of integrated with them. And we want to empower them to grow their business in the Hadoop market. And clearly, we're doing a good job because they're partnering with us and they're helping us a ton in deals.
Cool. And then one final question. What are you most looking forward to here at the conference? Or have you already experienced the highlight?
There's been a lot of things going on. I'm going to be selfish just for 1 second. I have a great presentation coming up, and it's about 20 minutes. So with Yellow Pages and Wargaming and Evernote, and we're going to talk about what I call BI and Hadoop heroes. What does it take to take your BI workloads, put it in Hadoop? It's not as complicated as you think. And I'm really excited about that because I think most vendors tend to do their pitch. In our session, I'm just going to hand over the mic to my customers and I'm just going to let them talk about their journey. So I'm excited about that.
Totally looking forward to it. Awesome. Bruno, Aziz, thank you so much for being here and sharing with us. And we'll be seeing you at the next session.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you very much.
Take care.
I'll take my cup.
Oh, I don't get to keep it? No, I'm kidding. That was a joke.